This video is about hiring. I think this will really help you as an operator in a small business from 1 million to 5 million. This hiring process is going to make a lot of sense for a lot of you. 1, hiring agencies. 2, investing in the people and how you qualify the people in your business. Let's talk about hiring agencies. I'll be very brief and then I'll get into the people because that's the meat of this video. Hiring agencies, I think that makes sense for 2 reasons. 1, you have no idea what you're doing in that space. Think like TalkShop, Amazon Seller Central, maybe email marketing. There is something to be had about bringing on an agency and learning from them and having them take over the reins, especially if they have other partners and agency clients, especially with platforms like TikTok Shop and Amazon Seller, because both Amazon and TikTok are constantly dynamically shuffling their algorithm. So by bringing on an agency, you're seeing firsthand what's happening with other clients. I think with Meta, it's been really challenging. We've gone through about 3 different agencies. It's just really hard to find a good media buyer. Even in an agency, unless you're giving them a commission or you have the really strong culture fit, it's just too hard to hire the entire operation you're gonna need to effectively execute on Meta. I think you have to bring people in and build a team to run Meta. And I'm biased because I've been doing Meta media buying for about 10 years now. Now, with respect to hiring, I think you still wanna think about your hiring process as you would really anything else. You wanna be lean, you wanna be mean, you wanna bring on positions only when you absolutely need to. There's a great book called Buy Back Your Time. I definitely recommend you read that and take that into consideration with all the hiring you do. Especially as a small operator, when you grow, you wanna make sure that the hiring you're doing is really to fill roles so you can free up your time. But this video is about what do you look for when you hire? Because I think ultimately that's where people get tripped up a lot. It took me a long time to understand this, but I wanna talk about culture. So culture is this sort of esoteric word that's out there, and it took me a long time to really understand it. But the idea is basically the mindsets, the values, the mission alignment, and the personality type that fits your organization. That's kind of what culture is. It's game, recognize game, like, recognize like. This person has the same sort of values, or you have a subset of values that you want. Maybe you're the ambitious entrepreneur, and if you hire someone who's an ambitious entrepreneur, they're just gonna leave you. That's not necessarily what you want. So culture definitely has nuances to it, but what I would say is this. When you're hiring, and I got a bit of this from Hermosi, so credit to Alex Hermosi and Layla Hermosi. When you're hiring, think of skill deficiency, meaning when you're hiring for operational roles, say project manager, data entry, operations, customer service, when you're hiring for these entry-level position type skills, where you can train someone to be a decent CS agent in 6 weeks. You don't need to be doing CS your entire life. Yes, it does help if you have a lot of experience, but generally speaking, to answer email tickets, follow a script, and follow certain guidelines, you can get someone to follow a book. And as long as they're proficient and they can follow the tools and train, that's a skill. That's the actual activity they're doing is the skill. And what I'm saying is hire the people based on culture fit, meaning like, they're ambitious, they're reliable, they're hungry to learn, they wanna grow, they have a positive can-do attitude, and they have intelligence to learn. So think of that as a way to hire your operational side of your business for those mid to entry level positions. I would think of someone like a coordinator, an organizer, a like project manager or program manager, or like a technical support admin, someone who can just do basic coding, set up apps and things like that. You don't need to hire the elite of the elite. You don't need to be spending 3, 4, 5 grand a month on some partnership to do that kind of stuff. You can really get away with cutting that down by about 1/10 the cost and just training in-house if you get the culture fit right. So when I say we're hiring on culture fit, what I really mean by this is we're looking for talent at a cheap cost, because if they don't have the skills, they can actually be hired at a much cheaper cost. If they have the right communication, ambition, and their heart is in the right place, because we can then train them. That's what I'm looking for operationally to keep my operations extremely lean, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of over hiring for operations. And then when things hit the fan and you're not selling like you were and sales slow down and you lose profit or you month or 2 where you're not making any money and you have to continually spend and invest in sales to get sales back on track, operational expense is not gonna bleed you dry. It's gonna keep you lean. So I strongly think this is a strategy going forward that's gonna make the most sense for me as a small business operator growing into a big business. And in that sort of pocket of 2 to 5 million for this brand that we're growing right now, that's where I think we're gonna have the best sort of squeeze out of the juice of what we need. And I'll give you a couple position examples of what we're gonna talk about. So here's a couple positions I think are gonna be great for hiring on skill deficiency, meaning I don't need to go out and pay a premium for them, these individuals, to hire them. And I think that if I get the right culture fit, they can quickly learn. Now, there's one caveat to this. If they don't have the skill or the track record, and that's gonna probably come down to bringing on a couple people in a trial basis to see how they fit, how they actually execute in the job. Non-skill testing, you're gonna have some challenges, and there's no test that's perfect. So you're gonna run into some issues where you just aren't gonna get the results necessarily, even though you thought you had the best culture fit, because they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the ability to actually learn the skill. They just never did, and they aren't capable, or it's gonna take them too long. So 2 positions we're hiring for. 1, bookkeeping, very straightforward. And once you train them, it's procedural, meaning it's very repetitive. You do the same thing, you follow patterns, your bank code transactions look very similar. If you set it up and you train someone on this, it seems to me like it's a very inexpensive role for the right culture fit with the right talent. So bookkeeping is one where you could get away with a few hours a week of contract work with someone who's a data entry specialist. And there's a lot of people through like Upwork and some of these other channels like onlinejobs.com, .ph, where you can find people like that. The other thing that I'm thinking about is project management. And again, this is culture fit. We want an ambitious, hungry, and this is for me, I want an ambitious, hungry, problem-solving, thirsty to learn type individual. The rest of it, we can train them. We can teach them how to use ClickUp, how to lists and spaces. It will take them, a month and a half to learn that. We can teach them how to communicate more effectively using Loom and systems and threads with outlines on Slack. All of these things can be taught, and I don't see them as being advanced skills like brain surgery, for example, or in a small business case, in our example, something more dynamic like learning how to run Amazon and all the nuances of the Amazon ecosystem and product changing. That's just too much to ask for someone, even if they're experienced. We've actually had bad experiences hiring experts in that space and not going with an agency. In that situation, and I think with TikTok Shop, where the algorithm is a heavy part of the traffic game and succeeding on the platform, you need an agency because they need to be plugged in with lots of clients, seeing what's working across the board and testing things and being able to translate those winnings to all those clients. It does take more time if you're an operator because you have to go and find the culture fit and test them and then bring them in and train them with very hands-on molding. But on the flip side, if you do it right, you get some amazing talent. So my best hires right now at the leadership level are culture fits. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did get value out of it, hit that like button and subscribe and drop a comment below and let me know what you think. I'll see you on the next one.